She didn't just humiliate me. She challenged me. Right there, in front of a living room full of coworkers, friends, and neighbors, my wife lifted her wine glass and announced that maybe our marriage should be open from now on. Everyone laughed, waiting for me to crumble. They thought I'd sputter, panic, beg her to stop. Instead, I smiled. And when I did what I did next, the laughter died instantly. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and drop a comment. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one. It happened at Mark and Denise's house on a Friday night. They throw those casual neighborhood get-togethers, beer in metal tubs, barbecue smoke drifting across the yard, classic rock humming from a speaker in the corner. Nothing fancy. Everyone brings something. Everyone pretends to love Denise's famous spinach dip. The kind of night where people wander around barefoot and talk about home repairs and weather patterns like they're discussing world politics. I was standing near the patio door, holding a cold bottle and talking with a couple of guys from work about the endless mess at the office. The air was cool, the grill was sizzling, and for a moment I felt genuinely relaxed. That hadn't happened in a while. My wife, Amber, had been different lately. Colder, sharper, always irritated, as if I'd personally offended her by existing. But that night she looked energized, a little too energized, laughing louder than usual, tossing her hair, sipping wine like she was on stage. Every now and then she kept glancing over at me. Not lovingly, not playfully, more like someone counting down to a performance that I should have known then. She placed her empty glass on the counter, cleared her throat dramatically, and tapped a fork against it like she was hosting an awards ceremony. Hey, everybody. Quick announcement. The room shifted. Music lowered. Conversations paused. Everyone turned. My heart didn't drop. My pulse didn't spike. I just watched her carefully, knowing something stupid, no, calculated, was coming. Amber beamed. So, after a lot of thought, we've decided, she pointed loosely in my direction, that exploring an open marriage might be really healthy for us. There was this collective little gasp, then a few awkward chuckles. Mark froze with a plate in his hand. Someone whispered, "Holy hell." Even the music paused like it was listening. Amber waited for me to panic. She wanted that. She wanted me to stumble, blush, deny everything, make a mess of myself in front of everyone. I could practically see the anticipation sparkling in her eyes. Instead, I nodded slowly. As you wish. Her smile faltered. Just a flicker, but enough for me to see the crack. She wasn't expecting composure. She wasn't expecting calm. Certainly not from me. For months, she'd treated me like background furniture. Predictable, harmless, ignorable. She forgot that even furniture can be set on fire. I took a sip of my beer and gently set it down. That's when I noticed someone sitting on the arm of the sofa. Emily, a friend of Amber's. Though calling them friends was generous. Emily tolerated Amber the way people tolerate trains running late. Annoyed, but numb from repetition. She was sharp, self-possessed, always dressed like she had someplace better to be. Honestly, I always liked her more than I was supposed to. And that's when the thought snapped into place. Not out of spite, not out of rage, but pure, icy clarity. If Amber wanted to play games, find out I'd stop playing along. I turned to Emily. "Hey," I said casually. "You doing anything this Sunday? I'd like to take you out for dinner." The room didn't fall silent. It collapsed. A fork clattered to the floor. Someone muttered, "Whoa." A woman near the kitchen whispered, "No way he just said that." Emily looked up at me, then at Amber, then back at me. A slow, wicked smile stretched across her face. "Sunday works," she said softly. I'd enjoy that. I didn't look at Amber yet. I didn't need to. I felt the shock radiating off her like heat, but I wasn't finished. "Great," I said. "We'll make it a nice evening." Only then did I turn toward my wife. Amber's expression was indescribable. Part horror, part disbelief, part realization that she'd lit a fuse she couldn't put out. "What are you doing?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I shrugged. accepting your announcement. People weren't laughing anymore. They weren't even pretending to look anywhere else. They were witnessing something raw, unscripted, and painfully real. Amber took a step toward me, her face flushed. I was joking, she hissed. It was a joke. Didn't sound like one, I replied. Sounded official. That was the moment she truly understood she'd lost control, and she hated it. The second Emily walked out of that living room with that confident little smile of hers, the entire atmosphere inside the house twisted into something tight and electric. Conversations died mid-sentence. People suddenly remembered they had drinks to refill or phones to check. No one wanted to look directly at me or at Amber, as if eye contact might drag them into the blast radius. Amber stood frozen in the middle of the living room, her hand still lifted from when she'd tapped her wine glass. Her smile had completely vanished. Her eyes darted between me and the door like some trapped animal finally realizing the cage was locked from the inside. "We need to talk," she whispered, her voice thin and trembling. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't touch her. I didn't even sigh. "Sure," I said, and walked toward the front door. The silence behind me felt like a pressure change before a storm. Outside, the porch light hummed faintly. The street was quiet, and the night air carried that mix of summer warmth and early fall sharpness. She grabbed my arm as soon as the door clicked shut. "What the hell was that?" she snapped. "You asked out Emily?" "Emily? Are you insane?" I looked at her calmly. "You announced an open marriage." I wasn't serious. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Amber, you made a public declaration about our marriage without talking to me first," I said. "You weren't drunk. You weren't confused. You prepared that little speech. You enjoyed the attention." She let out a sharp, shaky breath. "I wanted to see if you'd fight for me." There it was. The truth. Not remorse. Not misunderstanding. A performance. A test. A stage show with me as the clueless prop. "Fight for you." I repeated. "Is that what that was? A test?" She flinched. "I wanted to know if you still cared." By publicly humiliating me. Her mouth opened, then closed again, her expression collapsing in on itself. She didn't answer. She didn't have one. We stood there a moment, the porch light buzzing like a wasp. Then I said the one thing she didn't expect. "You created the rules. I'm just following them." She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Like she suddenly realized that the version of me she'd relied on, the predictable, endlessly patient version, was gone. "You can't do this," she whispered. "Watch me." I walked back toward the house to get my keys. Inside, the party was dissolving quickly. People grabbed jackets, murmured polite excuses, practically sprinted for the exit. One of the guys from work clapped me on the shoulder as he passed, muttering, "Man, good luck," before disappearing. Amber followed me inside, still begging, still trembling. "Please," she said, "please don't go out with her. I didn't think you'd actually do anything. I was trying to, I don't know, get your attention." "You got it," I said. I didn't look at her when I spoke. That hurt her more than anything else. I walked to the car and drove home alone. The house was dark and quiet when I stepped inside, the kind of quiet that feels thick. For the first time in a long time, I could hear my own thoughts clearly. I sat on the couch staring at nothing, letting the silence settle. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Just letting you know, I meant it when I said yes." And honestly, she had that coming. She pushes people too far. I stared at the message, letting the words sink in. Someone else had seen it. Someone else had been watching the slow decay, the disrespect, the constant poking and prodding Amber pretended were jokes. Sunday at 7, I texted back. "I'll pick you up." "Looking forward to it," she replied almost instantly. I leaned back against the couch and closed my eyes. The house felt different somehow. Lighter, sharper, like I'd stepped off a path I'd been blindly walking for years. Amber came home around midnight. The sound of the door opening broke the quiet, followed by the tap of her heels and the shaky breath she tried to hide. I didn't turn. I didn't speak. She stood behind the couch for a long moment before finally saying, "We need to talk." "Go ahead." She walked around and sat across from me. Her makeup was smeared from crying, her hands trembling as she tried to fold them neatly in her lap. "Tonight got out of hand," she said, her voice wavering. "You embarrassed me." I almost laughed at the absurdity. "I embarrassed you?" She swallowed hard. "You asked out my friend in front of everyone. Right after you announced our marriage was open," I said. "In front of the same people." Her lip quivered. "I was tipsy. I didn't mean it. You had 3 glasses of wine over 2 hours. You were perfectly aware." She leaned forward. "Can we just forget this happened? Please?" "I made a mistake." No, the word hung heavy in the air. She blinked, stunned. "No, no," I repeated. "We're not sweeping this away. You don't get to blow up a grenade in the middle of our social circle and then ask me to pretend it never detonated." Her voice rose. "So you're really going out with her?" "Yes." The silence that followed was suffocating. She tried anger next, then guilt, then tears. None of it worked. For the first time, she realized I wasn't the man she could twist, push, or guilt into submission. And that terrified her. "How could you do this to me?" she whispered. "I didn't do anything to you," I said. "You did this to us." Her breath shook as she stared at me. "So what happens now?" "Now," I said quietly, "you deal with the consequences of your own choices." She didn't sleep in our bedroom that night. And for the first time in months, I slept like a stone. The next morning, the house felt different, like a place where someone had quietly rearranged all the air. Amber was already awake, moving around the kitchen with forced cheerfulness, cooking breakfast as if pancakes and scrambled eggs could patch over what she'd done the night before. She set a plate in front of me with a soft smile that didn't reach her eyes. I ate in silence, not to be cruel, but because I had nothing left to say that she hadn't already heard. She tried small talk, asked about my day, asked if I wanted coffee, asked if we could reset and move forward. I answered with short, calm words, nothing more. When I left for work, she followed me to the door, her voice tight with desperation. "Can we talk tonight? Please?" "Maybe," I said and stepped outside. At work, I ignored her 6 calls, 12 texts, a voicemail telling me she felt sick with regret, another asking if we could cancel dinner with Emily, another saying she would never forgive herself if I went through with it. By the time I got home, she was pacing the living room like a restless shadow. Her eyes were swollen. Her voice trembled. "You're being childish," she snapped the moment I walked in. "This silent treatment is ridiculous." "I'm not giving you the silent treatment," I replied, hanging my jacket. "I'm giving you space." "Space for what? To make me suffer?" "No, to think." She hated that answer. "You don't even care that I'm going out tomorrow," she said, folding her arms. "Friday night. Trevor and I might get drinks." I looked at her evenly. "Have fun." It stunned her. She expected jealousy, panic, anger, anything familiar she could use to regain control. Instead, I chopped vegetables for dinner. Quietly, calmly, indifferently. "You don't even care?" she demanded, her voice shrill. "You announced we're open," I said. I accepted. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. "You're trying to call my bluff." "No bluff." I slid the pan onto the stove. "You wanted this. You got it." She didn't have an answer. Friday night arrived with a heaviness in the air. She spent nearly 2 hours getting ready, hair curled, dress pressed, perfume thick enough to fill the hallway. Every few minutes, she glanced at me, waiting for the explosion, the argument, the plea. I watched a documentary and ate leftover pasta. When she finally walked out the door, she paused dramatically, hoping I'd stop her. I didn't. "Don't wait up," she said. "I won't." She didn't meet my eyes when she closed the door. I spent the evening peacefully. A movie. A quiet house. No tension. No eggshells under my feet. When she came home, earlier than I'd expected, she was crying. Hard. She tried to hide it, going straight to the guest room without saying a word. I didn't follow. I didn't ask what happened with Trevor. I didn't offer comfort. For once, her choices were hers alone to deal with. Saturday morning came with a soft knock on the kitchen doorway. She stood there wrapped in a robe, eyes puffy from crying. "Can we talk?" she asked. "About last night." "Sure." I poured my coffee while she hovered in the doorway like a ghost. "I didn't go through with anything," she said quietly. "I met Trevor for drinks, but when I got there I realized I didn't actually want this. I didn't want him." "Okay." She blinked, thrown off by the non-reaction. "That's all you have to say?" "Okay. What would you like me to say?" "I don't know, something." "Anything." I sat at the table, motioning for her to sit. She lowered herself slowly, rubbing her hands together. "I want you to cancel dinner with Emily," she said. "Not happening." "Why not?" "Because this isn't about you going out with someone. It's about respect. Or the lack of it." She stared at her coffee, as if something inside it held answers she couldn't find in me. "I messed up," she whispered. "Yes," I said. "You did. But we can fix this." "Maybe," I replied, but not by pretending nothing happened and demanding I cancel plans. Her voice cracked. "So you're really going through with this?" "I am." Saturday evening I showered, shaved, and put on the shirt she always said was too dressy for everyday wear. Funny, now it felt like armor. When I walked into the living room, she was sitting on the couch with her arms tightly crossed. "Have a good time," she muttered without looking at me. "Thanks," I said. "Don't wait up." The drive to Emily's place felt strangely freeing. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't guilty. I wasn't conflicted. I felt steady, present, alive in a way I hadn't in a long time. When Emily opened the door, she was wearing a simple navy dress and a small, knowing smile. "Right on time," she said. "I like that." "I try," I replied. The car ride was easy. Conversation flowed naturally, about work, about life, about the absurdity of last night. No tension, no sharp edges, just ease. Dinner was even easier. A cozy booth, soft lighting, warm food, and a woman who spoke her mind without apology or games. At one point she leaned forward and said quietly, "You know, she's been treating you badly for a long time. People notice." I swallowed. "People?" "Everyone," she said. "I've watched her tear you down in little ways for years. She thinks it's clever. It's not." I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. She continued, "You deserve someone who doesn't need to test you to feel powerful." The words hit harder than I expected. After dessert, we talked even more. Family, travel, the little things that make life tolerable. When I walked her to her door, she smiled warmly. "Tonight was good," she said. "Really good." "Yeah," I answered. "It was." She tilted her head. "Whatever you decide about your marriage, make sure it's for you. Not for guilt. Not for obligation. You deserve a life that feels peaceful." I nodded. She squeezed my hand lightly. "And hey, if you ever want to do this again, no pressure, no expectations, just let me know." I drove home feeling more clear-headed than I had in months. When I walked inside, Amber was waiting on the couch, arms wrapped around herself, fear etched across her face. "You actually had a good time," she whispered. It wasn't a question. "Yes," I said. Her voice trembled. "What now?" I looked at her. Really looked. "I don't know," I said. "But pretending we're fine won't fix anything." Monday morning hit like a hammer. Not because of work, not because of lack of sleep, but because of the message waiting on my phone the second I woke up. It was from Mark. "Dude, heads up. Your wife called Denise earlier having a full meltdown. Says Emily is trying to steal you. Just thought you should know." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back a simple thanks. It was exactly what I expected her to do. Spin the story, twist the facts, paint herself as a victim of some dramatic betrayal rather than the architect of her own disaster. By lunchtime, I had 4 missed calls from her and at least a dozen texts. They ranged from soft apologies to panicked accusations to long, rambling explanations about how this wasn't supposed to happen, and "we can still fix everything if you just please come home early." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I knew there was a conversation coming. but it wasn't one she was going to control. When I walked through the front door at 6:15, I found her sitting at the dining table surrounded by papers, her laptop open, spreadsheets pulled up like she was preparing for a business negotiation instead of a marriage discussion. Her eyes were puffy, but her jaw was set with that stubbornness she always used when she thought she could bend reality to her will. "Sit down," she said quietly. It wasn't a request. It was a command. I ignored the tone and took a seat. "What is all this?" She pushed a stack of papers toward me. "Our finances. If we're really doing this open relationship thing, we need to set boundaries. Ground rules. We need clarity." I almost laughed at how absurd it was. "Now you want rules?" I asked, after announcing our marriage was open in front of a room full of people. "I'm trying to fix this," she snapped, slamming her hand onto the table. "I'm trying to make it work." "No," I said calmly. "You're trying to regain control because things didn't unfold the way you expected." Her face twisted. "Stop acting like you're the victim here. You're the one who asked out my friend. You're the one who's rubbing this in my face." "I went to dinner with someone who treats me with respect," I said. "Once. Meanwhile, you've been emotionally involved with Trevor for months. I'm not the one who started this." Her mouth opened, but no words came. She paced back and forth, arms wrapped around herself like she needed to hold something steady. "Nothing happened with Trevor," she said. "Nothing yet," I corrected. "But you wanted something to happen. That's why you made the announcement. You wanted permission without responsibility." "Fine," she shouted suddenly. "You want the truth?" "Yes, Trevor and I have chemistry. Yes, I thought about it. But I didn't act on it. I was trying to strengthen our marriage. I thought if we both explored things, we'd come back to each other stronger." "Other couples talk about it first," I said. "They don't blindside their spouse in front of 20 people." She ran her hands through her hair in frustration. "I found a therapist," she said breathlessly. "Someone who specializes in non-traditional relationships. We can talk to them together. We can figure out how to make this work." "I don't want to make this work," I said. The silence that followed was deep, heavy, suffocating. She stared at me like she hadn't understood the words. "What? I don't want to fix this. Not like this. Not anymore." Her face collapsed. "You're giving up?" "Just like that. Just like that." I repeated. "This has been building for months. Years. You humiliated me in front of everyone. And for what? Attention? A test? Permission? That's not fair," she whispered. "Life's not fair," I said. "You taught me that when you raised that wine glass." She sat down heavily, her breathing shaky. "So what are you saying? You want a divorce?" I didn't look away from her eyes. "I want to talk to a lawyer." She inhaled sharply like I'd punched her. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious." She stood there, trembling, but said nothing. The next morning, I took a sick day and drove across town to meet with an attorney. A calm, sharp woman named Ms. Foster listened to everything without interrupting. When I finished, she folded her hands on the desk. "Do you have children?" "No shared assets. A joint account for bills. Separate savings. We rent." She nodded. "That makes this simple. Very simple. If you're sure, we can start paperwork today." I didn't even hesitate. "I'm sure." The meeting lasted an hour, but by the end of it, I felt lighter than I had in months. There was a clear path forward now. No more guessing. No more hoping. No more tests. When I got home late afternoon, the house was empty. Amber wasn't back yet. I used the time to separate my belongings from hers. It was depressing how easy it was. We'd spent 7 years together, yet our lives barely intertwined beyond the surface. When she came home that evening, she was carrying takeout bags from my favorite place. She set them on the counter like an offering. "Can we have a normal dinner?" she asked softly. "Can we talk like adults?" "Sure," I said. Dinner was quiet. Heavy. She kept trying to meet my eyes, but I kept my focus on the food. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "I saw Emily today." I put down my fork slowly. "Okay." I went to her office. That caught me off guard. "Why?" "I needed to talk to her," she whispered. "I needed to tell her to back off." I waited. She swallowed hard. She told me we're not friends anymore. She said I've been a terrible friend for years. She said she's glad someone finally called me out. She looked at me helplessly. Is that really what people think of me? Probably, I said honestly. Her expression shattered. How can you just sit there and say that? Because it's true, I said. People are tired, Amber. Everyone is tired of you treating relationships like some kind of power struggle. Tears spilled down her cheeks. So that's it. You've made up your mind. I filed the paperwork today. She shot to her feet, so fast her chair crashed backward. You what? I talked to a lawyer. We started the process. You can't do this. You did it first, I said calmly. That night at the party, she broke, completely and utterly, sinking to the floor in sobs. I didn't move. I didn't comfort her. I couldn't. When she finally looked up, eyes red and swollen, she whispered, "Where am I supposed to sleep?" "Guest room," I said. "Or the couch. Your choice." That night, my phone buzzed. It was Emily. She came to see me today. She looked unstable. "You okay?" "Yeah," I typed. "Filed for divorce. It's getting messy. If you need anything, coffee, a break, a witness, whatever, I'm here." "Thanks," I wrote. "Just trying to stay steady." "You're doing the right thing," she replied. "She's been walking over you for too long. Time to stand tall." I stared at the message for a long time before setting the phone down. For the first time in years, the future didn't scare me. It felt open, and this time on my terms. The next few weeks moved in a strange rhythm, half storm, half calm, like the world couldn't decide whether to tear itself apart or settle into something new. Amber swung between begging and fury, between tearful apologies and bitter accusations. 1 hour she'd leave handwritten notes on the counter telling me she loved me and would fight for us. The next, she'd hiss that I was ruining her life. I didn't engage. I didn't argue. I didn't soothe. I answered only when necessary, and always in the same level, steady tone that she couldn't manipulate. What shocked me wasn't her behavior. It was everyone else's. Messages started coming in from friends, coworkers, even people I never expected to hear from. Bradley called me one night, his voice low and oddly relieved. "Man, I've been waiting for you to wake up for 2 years. She's been walking all over you forever. We all saw it. Just glad you finally did too." Then Denise sent a long text apologizing for not stepping in sooner, saying she never understood why I tolerated the constant digs and jokes Amber passed off as playfulness. Even people from Amber's family reached out. Her cousin called and said quietly, "Honestly, none of us are surprised. We always thought she treated you like a project, not a partner." One of her coworkers messaged me privately and said something that froze me in place. "By the way, Trevor rejected her weeks ago. She tried to start something. He turned her down. I think that's why she made that open marriage announcement." She was embarrassed and angry. That hit hard. Not because it hurt, because it explained everything with brutal clarity. She wasn't seeking freedom. She was seeking permission to justify a rejection, and she wanted me to make it easy for her. I didn't feel anger. I just felt done. Completely, peacefully done. The divorce process itself was remarkably smooth. No kids, no shared property beyond a few pieces of furniture. Miss Foster, the attorney, guided everything with precise professionalism. "Honestly," she said after our second meeting, "I've seen divorces take years. Yours will be wrapped up in weeks." True to her word, it moved faster than I expected. During that time, Emily and I stayed in touch. Not romantically, not suggestively, just supportively. We met for coffee twice, exchanging stories and dry humor that made the tension easier to bear. She never pushed. She never pried. She just showed up when I needed a moment of sanity. One afternoon, she asked how I was holding up. "Better than I thought I'd be," I said. "Turns out everyone knew how bad things were except me." She nodded slowly. "You weren't blind. You were loyal. There's a difference." The day the divorce papers were finalized, Amber showed up at my new apartment unannounced. She knocked softly, almost timidly. When I opened the door, She stood there with red eyes and trembling hands. I just want to talk, she whispered. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She stood in the middle of my living room like she didn't recognize it, like she didn't recognize me. I can be better, she said finally. I understand what I did wrong. I get it now. I can fix myself. I can fix us. I hope you do fix yourself, I said gently. Truly. But not for me. For you. Her face crumpled. So that's it. That's it. She pressed her hand to her mouth, nodded slowly, then left without another word. 2 months later, the divorce was final. I felt lighter, clearer, like I'd stepped out of a long, windowless room into open air. Emily texted me that afternoon. Congratulations on your freedom. Drinks later. Absolutely, I wrote back. We met downtown and toasted with bourbon. So what now? She asked with a warm smile. Now, I said. I figure out who I am without someone telling me who to be. She lifted her glass. That's the best answer you could have given. Over the next year, my life rebuilt itself piece by piece. I picked up old hobbies. I started jogging in the mornings. I read books I'd abandoned years ago. I went out with friends without checking someone's mood first. I learned what peace sounded like. Emily and I stayed friends, the real kind. We grabbed dinner once a month, exchanged sarcastic messages, supported each other when work or life got heavy. One night over pizza, she looked up at me and said, "You know we're never going to date, right?" I laughed. "Yeah, I know. Good. I like what we have. No complications. Works for me," I said. "Though you did help blow up my marriage." She smirked. "Your marriage blew itself up. I just provided the match." She wasn't wrong. A year after the party, life had settled into something steady, something good. I ran into Mark at the grocery store, and he told me Amber had moved to Colorado. Fresh start, he said. Hopefully she figures herself out. I hope so too, I replied. And I meant it. I didn't hate her. I didn't resent her. I didn't even think about her much anymore. I was finally living, not tolerating. A few months later, Mark and Denise threw another gathering. Same backyard, same crowd, same playlist. But this time, there was no tension coiled around my neck. No forced smiles. No waiting for someone to embarrass me. I stood by the grill talking with people who genuinely cared. Emily wandered through the yard telling some wild story about her boss losing a presentation file, making everyone laugh the way she always did. As the evening rolled on, I caught a quiet moment by myself near the patio door. I looked around at the warm lights, familiar faces, easy laughter. A year ago, in this exact type of setting, Amber had stood up and made her little announcement, expecting me to crumble. And instead, I'd done the one thing she never imagined. I chose myself. That choice changed everything, and I would never regret it. Sometimes a single moment, one careless sentence, one raised glass, shows you exactly who someone is. And sometimes it shows you who you've forgotten to be. That night, as I left the party and walked to my car, I felt something simple and solid settle inside me. Peace, confidence, freedom. And I realized something I wish I'd understood years earlier. Silence, when used right, is louder than any shouting match. It was silence that broke the pattern. Silence that showed her I was done. Silence that saved me. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe, hit like, and leave a comment. Your support means everything.